Hello there. This is a helper video for our writing, our monster writing. So this is as much a helper for my little Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs as it is for the parents. Remember, all the writing is supposed to be done by your child. So I know you might have the urge to assist them, but the goal is for me to be able to see where they're at with their writing. So we've had a couple mini lessons, and what we kind of started with um, was they wrote their name in cursive and then made it into a monster or monster art, and we're supposed to create a narrative story around that. So a narrative being storytelling. One of our first mini lessons was your story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And writers ensure that their stories follow an expected format by including a beginning, middle, ending. So we talked about what needed to go in the introduction, and we talked about how the middle of the story always includes a climax or a conflict, a problem. And then how does a character resolve that? Okay, so let's talk about what needs to go in each section. And when I offer these mini lessons, what I like to ask is that if we're spending the time investigating this and writing it while in class, going over these little tidbits, that I should be able to see this in their writing. So the beginning of a narrative story needs to tell us who are the characters, what is the setting, what's happening. And then in the middle of the story, at some point, there needs to be a conflict. What is the problem that the characters face? Why is this a problem? You have to explain those things. You don't want to leave the reader guessing, right? You really want to explain what the problem is and why is this a problem. Now, by the end of your story, the big wrap up or resolution must tell us, how did the character respond to this problem? What did they do? Does the character learn anything? Do they change um, by solving or when solving this problem? Does that create a character change? And then what's their final thoughts? How do we leave it? What do they think about the whole event, right? So those are some really strong lessons in what needs to be in the beginning of the story, what needs to be the conflict or the climax, or the top of the mountain, and then the resolution coming down. How is all that solved for? What does the character think? What did they learn? Okay, so that is one of the many lessons we have had. Another lesson that we talked about and spent some time on was the hook. Okay, good writers often hook their readers. So that's really important, that we're following these mentor authors and doing the things that they do so well. So we insert a bold beginning, and there's many ways that we can do that. We said, let's see, is it going to move for me? There we said. We said you can use dialogue. Oh, did you see that clown? Why not, right? Maybe onomatopoeia. Splash! I dove into the pool head first. That's an attention getter, right? You're starting with a word sound. Um, so that's definitely an option. How about, have you ever attended a birthday party with a clown? You can start with action. This is a really fun way to hook the reader. He raced to the top of the hill in no time and shouted from the mountain tops, I am the champion, right? So definitely action brings people in. You can use humor. Belly flop is one way to do it. Wouldn't that want you or keep you interested and make you want to learn more? Do I have, let's see, what else do I have on here? Okay, so we took notes on how to write a hook or different options for writing a hook. And then directly after taking notes and discussing this, the students are supposed to choose a hook and write it into their story. So a hook should always show up within the first paragraph of your writing. Okay. So one other thing we talked about and a mini lesson we had was characterization. And we spent a lot of time on this, and I probably shouldn't have left my slides so quick because I got to show you just a little David and make sure everyone recalls what a fun character he is. So in class, we reviewed the book by David Shannon. Oh my goodness, I'm going through all my slides here. That's all about David. Here we go. David, you're tardy. Sit down, David. Don't chew gum in class. Keep your hands to yourself. Pay attention. Hey, David, raise your hand. So we kind of characterized David. He's such a great character. But what we talked about is that writers describe character traits to help the reader envision their vision, right? We talked about Harry Potter, right? Everyone knows the character Harry Potter because the author does an amazing job detailing him. So, for instance, if I said Harry Potter is 6'5" with blonde hair, he's long and lanky, and man, is he clumsy. Would you agree with that? Probably not. We all know that Harry Potter is super smart, very social, has his two great buddies. He's a great wizard, very talented, and he's shorter with brown hair, right? So, as a writer, we want to characterize what their physical appearance is because that helps paint the picture. We also want to detail what the character's actions are. Why? Because a character's actions, their thinking, their feelings help us to better understand the character. So we talked about how David regularly annoys other students, right? We also said physically, he's always got a smile on his face. So even though he's getting in trouble all the time, we're thinking he's feeling happy because he's always smiling. So there can be physical traits that make us believe or show a feeling or emotion as well. So all of these things give us insight as to who your character is. And for this assignment, you're writing about your monster. Often it might be the you monster. So it might be the Griffin monster or the Izzy monster. So really develop your monster. Tell us who they are, what they look like, what their physical attributes are, but also how they're feeling, what they're thinking. And that really helps us get into your story. So this is where we've left off, my Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs. You should be able to write at least a 3-paragraph essay at this point. The goal for 4th grade is probably to be able to extend that to 5 paragraphs. Your first paragraph needs to include a hook, and we reviewed what sort of hooks you could start with. There has to be some sort of conflict, or else the story doesn't really evolve. The character doesn't evolve. So somewhere in there, you should definitely be inserting characterization too, right? Generally in the beginning, we want to know who's in the story. So you're starting with characterization, but their feelings, their actions kind of come out along the way. So we learn more as we go. And definitely the ending of the story needs to have some resolution, right? What does your character learn? How do things end up? How do they solve the conflict? So think about those things as you're writing, my Nerdy-Nawg-Dawgs.